Hi, I am Alec Eisenson of AOE. I am a certified AI marketing consultant and excited to bring a discussion to you today related to the role of generative AI and public relations. Let me first introduce my panelists today, Kimberly Kaler, president of AOE, and Kristen Dispenza, the leader of our PR practice group. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's begin. As the use of AI has grown during the last year, we have had some clients ask the question, why shouldn't I just have ChatGPT or other generative AI tools generate my press releases? Kristen, as the head of our PR practice group, what is your response to those who ask this?
I'd say there are several things, really. The first is that AOE's message is not necessarily to avoid generative AI altogether. It's a tool that may have a place in your process, but it can't yet take a press release from start to finish. An important point to make is that while AI can currently generate a pretty good outline for some projects, when you put your information into the message box that appears in your browser, you're putting your organization's information out there to be read and processed, and there might end up being an issue related to confidentiality. And another concern with AI-generated press releases is the potential for bias. Because the technology is trained on large amounts of existing text, it might inadvertently pick up and replicate biases that are present in that text, which can lead to the generation of press releases that perpetuate stereotypes or exclude certain groups of people. And also, I'll say that's not a limitation of ChatGPT specifically. It's a general concern with AI-generated content. There's also a concern that AI-generated press releases could be used to spread misinformation or propaganda. A strength of the technology is actually that it's able to generate text that's highly coherent and contextually appropriate, but that doesn't make everything it generates true. So it could generate a misleading press release that's difficult to distinguish from one written by humans. So all these concerns together, that there's the potential for bias or propaganda, means there are several ethical considerations that come with the use of AI-generated press releases.
So given the concerns that you just mentioned, what specifically should companies be on the lookout for when they do a press release generated with AI?
Companies should have a human review and edit AI-generated press releases. The first thing to look for is accuracy. We mentioned that AI might not always generate press releases that are factual and reliable, especially when dealing with complex or sensitive topics, or when the data or information is incomplete. This is a big deal for any company using the technology because it can lead to misinformation or controversy, damaging the reputation and trustworthiness of your organization and potentially causing legal or ethical issues. And another thing to look for is authenticity. Humans should review AI-generated press releases to make sure they come across as authentic and human, especially when dealing with emotional or personal stories, or when the audience expects a human voice or perspective. So just overall, before you release AI-generated content, view it through the lens of accountability, because ultimately your company is responsible for the content of the press release. And you don't want to end up in a situation where your audience raises questions or concerns about the credibility or the purpose of the press release, and you don't want your organization to be liable for any consequences or implications.
So are there any policies companies should put in place to mitigate the potential for negative effects?
Companies might decide to conduct regular audits of their body of generated text to identify and correct any biases. They should also consider being transparent about the fact that they use AI to generate the press release and working to find ways to use the technology in a way that doesn't displace human jobs or spread misinformation.
Thank you, Kristen. It is interesting, and when I posed this question in ChatGPT, even ChatGPT warned me about the potential issues, specifically regarding bias. With that said, Kimberly, what are the upsides of using generative AI in developing press releases?
Thank you, Alec. Well, there's three things. First is speed, and there's consistency, and then also creativity. So obviously, with regard to speed, it's really helpful to use a generative AI for drafting press release or blogs or that kind of thing, provided the information is okay to be put out there. It obviously gets you started. It gets a nice base all set out for you. In terms of consistency, you can train a lot of these language models to actually create a press release in your format with your style. So there is some benefit to that. Again, though, you need to make sure you've got that human element included, as Kristen mentioned. Make sure that a human's reviewing things for accuracy, bias, etc. And then also creativity. If you've got that writer's block, or if you're stumbling a bit, generative AI can really help in terms of pulling something together for you. But again, I caution you to really think about how creative you should be in a press release. You still want to make sure you're being journalistic. You're not writing the great American novel here.
Okay. So, Kristen, what about using AI to develop articles?
Okay, when we're talking about media relations, AI's role becomes a little thornier. You need to be careful there because you can quickly lose the craft of delivering your organization's key messages. You might find yourself all of a sudden sharing the content that AI has surfaced on the topic. Good article writing is a multi-step process. And at AIOE, we begin by connecting with our clients and outlining key messages. A lot of conversations happen and drafts are collaborated on. And by the end of an article's production, the key subject matter experts have conveyed a lot of really nuanced information. And that's what makes for a good press article.
So, Kimberly, are there any other tips for success?
Yeah, so building on what Kristen just said, and we see this anytime something new comes into the list of options, if you will, when social media came about, when there's some other new marketing tool, folks are quick to dive in and use the tool without stopping and asking themselves, what's my strategy here? What am I trying to accomplish? What are my key messages? Who are my target audiences? So going back to basics there is really key to make sure that when you are using these tools or any other tools in your marketing program, content development, that you understand your messages and who your key audiences are.
Thank you, Kimberly. I'd like to thank both of you for sitting down with me today. And for our viewers, know that AOE has deep expertise in how to effectively use AI tools in your marketing programs. We currently have several beta projects happening that help us learn further the best way to implement AI tools, and reach out today to discuss how we can partner with you. Visit aoeteam.com for more information.
Thank you.